Good evening. Two hands to go over today. We're going to change it up, and now we're going to look at c-betting spots. So I think for this next week, we're going to be c-betting out of position and getting to the river. So we're going to c-bet probably early position, mid position, since that's the most common position when we will be out of position. So hand number one, this is 25 NL game. I get pocket sevens. I raise the three big blinds. I think that's fine. And I get called in two spots. So both of the players, I have quite a few hands, and I know a bit about them. This player, I've got 2,000 hands. For him to call like this out of position, or I should say in position on me, but so early, I do think he's going to be having a much tighter range than what you would typically expect. His 3-bet range is 6%. So when we look at his pre-flop calls, he only calls 11% of hands. All right, and his 3-bet is 6%. 6% early position. So that's like total of 17% of hands, maybe. So if we look at, that's 18%. Let's take that out. 17% of hand. Let's get the hands that he's probably isn't going to open raise with. We're at 12.5% there. And then if we add in some of these, probably not there. Maybe all of those, 15%. Hold on. Maybe 17% of hands right there. I think that looks pretty good. All right, and he raises with 6%, so we are going to get down to 11%. So I think he's going to be raising at least queens plus and ace king, probably ace queen suited, maybe ace queen off, jacks, maybe tens. Let's see if we've got any more information about his 3-bet range. He's got ace queen suited plus, queens plus. He had tens in there, kings jacks plus. I think some of those were raising maybe, small blind raise, big blind raise, or, late position 3-bet. He could also possibly do 3-bets like that. So he's got those, and then ace 2 to ace 5. Kind of polarize it. Maybe not all of them. Maybe just ace 4s and ace 5s, or just ace 5. What we'll do is we'll keep all of them in there. So it's pocket sevens versus this player. We're dealing with, we're head. We've got a pocket pair, but it's not going to really be playable. Once we get called, we're going to hope that we catch something, or the board misses our opponent, so we could pick it up. What about this player? We've got 400 hands on him. He's 28-14. I think he's going to be much wider. When we look at his pre-flop calls from the button, it's 0 out of 26 right now. It seems to have called 2-bets from the early position. Maybe he's more likely to call here than raise. What about his 3-bet stat? Button is 8%. Limping, maybe he probably limps a little bit more. So let's see what we can do with this player. He doesn't seem like he's calling. He had 26 opportunities to call. Maybe it was just those opportunities where he just didn't have typical hands. So a lot of times these players are just going to be calling with their speculative hands instead of raising. Maybe all the pocket pairs, maybe some suited connectors because he's got position on him, maybe some of these offsuits, aces, maybe something tight like that. I think that might be about the only thing. Maybe queen 10 in there. That's 14% of hands, and you think he would have had those at some point in those 26 hands, but in the button, he's had that opportunity where he's faced a raise only 26 times, and he's called it. So I think we're just gonna keep it something like that tight. When we see pocket sevens, again, same situation. We're kind of we're ahead because we have the pocket pair, but we're going to have to manage the board a bit carefully. So we see a flop of 9-8-3 with 2 spades. This definitely hits the calling ranges more than they hit my range. And I think here we probably should be checking. I don't think we should be c-betting here at all. I think if we bet and get raised, we can't really do a whole lot. I think if we bet, we're going to be getting called a lot. I mean, this board's not going to really hit us, so I think you can get called by some of the ace-king, ace-queen hands if they chose not to raise those. I said they didn't, so let's look at king-queen they could call. Queen-jack they could call, with the gut shots. The king-jack they could call, ace-jacks, ace-tens. I think they could call with those, all the spades, any of the nines, maybe your flushes, and probably the pocket pairs too. So I think this is a spot we just check and possibly call depending on what happens. Because we can, go backdoor, straight. I didn't do that, I bet, and I actually bet half pot. If I'm going to bet here, since we had 2 callers, I think half pot's probably okay. I don't think we want to invest more. And then we get a caller, so this first caller, and then the other player folds. So let's look at this. When he calls, I think we're dealing with probably these pairs: flush draw, open-end straight draw, gut shots. I think these are all captured. So he calls 57%. We're still ahead at 52% because he has some of these draws. 5, I think the 5 improves our range, or our hand, a little bit, because now we pick up a 6. All right, so pot's 20.8. If we bet, what is he going to call with? Probably set. Over pair, top pair probably. Would he call with middle pair? Yeah, probably, because that board doesn't really hit us. What about the weak pairs? I think it depends on how much we bet. I think if we come in for like a 2/3 pot bet, we're going to get him to fold the weak pairs. But do we really want him to fold those? I mean, those are hands that we beat. So if we check, do we think he's going to bet? Let's take a look at this. So on the turn, his float is 75%. I think this might be a good spot where we can check here and let him bet, and then we can call, because I'd expect him to bet all of these weak pairs and probably flush draws and open-ended straight draws and gut shots and so forth. Do I think he's going to bet the sets? Yeah. Do I think he's going to bet the overpair, top pair? Yeah, probably. But I think we're going after these weak pairs, and I think the way we can get them is to check. I bet 2/3, and he calls. So I'm going to take out all the weak pairs. I'm going to include flush draw, open-end straight draw, gut shots, and I think I'm going to take out the sets, because I do think sets are going to be raising, and I kind of think the overpairs, pocket tens, at some point pocket tens should be raising, but maybe he's afraid that I have jacks or queens or kings or aces, so he could be calling there. Now, against this calling range, you can see we are still ahead because of the flush draw, open-ended straight draw, and the gut shot. Ace of spades hits. That's rough on me. So just, oops. I guess hold on. Let's go back. Yeah. So in his calling range, we're 58%. We're ahead. And now the ace of spades hits. Against that range, we're still ahead at 56%. Now the question is, what do we do? If he float bet on the turn 75% of the time, what would he do with the river? Well, with the river, he's never had that situation. I think if he was faced with the river, I think if I check, he might just check his 2 pair and his pocket pair, below top pair, middle pair, weak pair. I think he would probably check all of those, and I think he would probably bet his flush to try to get some value. But I just think 2 pairs got a little bit of value. Ace 8 and ace 9. He may think possibly that I checked because I have the spade draw, him, myself, and I'm being tricky. If I bet here, I think there's a possibility that he could fold this middle pair and the pocket pair below top pair, and of course the weak pair. So I think if I bet, he's only going to be calling 24% of the time and I lose, versus checking. So checking again, and if he checks behind, we're at 56%, but I said I don't think he's going to check. I think he's going to bet the flush, so I could fold the flush. We'll say the two pair. Maybe he doesn't, maybe he bets a two pair and we fold. So if we check and he checks, we're ahead 56% of the time. And that's assuming if I check, he bets this 24%. If I check and he bets flush, two pair, top pair, pocket pair, below top pair, middle pair, and I call, I'm zero. Just flat out, I'm zero. I need him to be able to bet the weak pair, and I just don't think. I think he's going to check with a weak pair. I actually think he's going to check with a weak pair, check with the middle pair, check with a pocket pair below top pair. I think he's going to check all of those because he has showdown value hand. So I think here we could probably just check and fold if he bets, and if not, hope he has one of these, weak pairs or no made hands. What did I do? I actually bet. I bet half pot, and I don't, I kind of think, if I had the spade, would I have really bet that much? He's called twice. If I had the nut spade, he could be calling with the spades himself, and he would probably call with the queen or with the jack of spades if he had it. So I kind of think, if I had the spades, why wouldn't I bet larger? Maybe the half pot is looking at, hey, I need you to call, but oftentimes I think that kind of seems weak. It doesn't match the play that we've been doing. So I don't like this bet at all. I don't even like the sizing. I don't like the bet, period. I should have just checked. And of course he calls and he shows eights, trip eights. So that's kind of interesting because I didn't have the sets in there. I assumed he would have raised on the turn with those. He had good control. He obviously didn't put me on a spade. And, would any bet sizing get him to fold? Probably not, no matter what. So, I know I bet because, the ace is going to hit my range. And even if I don't have the spade, I should have that ace. And that could get the 9 to fold and the 8s to fold and so forth. But again, from his perspective, why would I bet again with the ace? Why not check and let me bet? So we didn't get this hand because I assumed he would have raised the turn. Can't get them all, but I did think that once we got to the river, I was probably behind, and I think the best play should have been to check. All right, let me close this out and get hand number 2 ready. All right, hand number 2 is also a 25 NL game. This is 8 pocket nines, open raise to 3. I think that's fine. I get called in 2 spots. Now, I do have 900 hands on one player. He's playing 24-12. His 3 bet is 8%, so I think he is 1%. He's in the mid position technically. So his 3 bet's probably in like the 4 or 5% range, probably. About a 5% range. Maybe a little less, maybe 4%. He calls in mid position 19% of the time. So it kind of looks like he might be a little bit more prone to raise from cutoff and button instead of just calling. So let's see what we can do with him. I don't think he's going to be overly crazy. So we said he calls 19% and he would raise about 5%. So let's take out some of our raising range. So queens plus ace king is coming in at under 3%. Let's add jacks. Let's add ace queens to that. So jacks plus ace queen is around 4%. So that's probably where I'm going to stop. And then we've got a call. So is he going to call with all of these? I don't think he calls with a lot of these offsuit hands. I don't see a lot of players call with these offsuit hands. Maybe ace 10, but even then, I think ace jacks, maybe the jack 10. So we're at 15% right there. Maybe we'll add those hands to get to 16%. That's probably okay. So our nines are going to be okay against that, a little bit better than sevens. But same situation. We've got a pocket pair, so we're going to be ahead of all of these unpaired hands. What about this cutoff? Well, he's played 50% of the hand so far. His pre-flop raise is 17%. He is not 3-bet out of 10 attempts. And when we look at his calling, is 60%. So 50% of the time he's been in the cutoff. So I think he is going to be fairly wide, at least much wider than what we have been looking at. Let's start there. Let's pair off just our standard 3-bets and then see if we can narrow down some hands. So let's take out those. Let's move some of our suiteds. So that's pretty wide. Would he have all of these suited queens in there? Man, standard players normally don't play that. You know, standard players normally don't play it, so I could probably do something more like that, and that's 42%. Maybe he's playing these offsuits. It's really wide. Now 5's going to be doing much better because he has a lot more unpaired hands here. So you're going to see 9s, 68%, 69%. So 3 of us go to the flop, and the board is 8-2-6 with 2 hearts, 8 of hearts, 6 of hearts, and our 2 of diamonds. So this is a situation where, yeah, this probably does hit the calling ranges harder. While I could have, pocket 8s and pocket 6s and pocket deuces, so can they. But I do have pocket 9s, and being out of position, I don't think I want to check and risk getting it checked and then having, a 10 come out or a jack come out and having, 10 jack catch or queen 10 catch and now beat us. I think if we bet, it's kind of a mixture of value and a mixture of semi-bluff, where we would enjoy watching some of our aces fold, because then that could help us if we're beat. So against pocket 10s, if an ace falls, the pocket 10s might fold. We do have a 9 for backdoor straight potential, and we have a 9 of heart for backdoor flush potential. So I do think we can bet. How much should we bet? I think we should probably bet on the smaller side since we're out of position. We're vulnerable. I think 2/3 might be a little bit large, because I think if we bet 2/3, we're getting called by the same number of hands as if we bet half pot. So I think half pots here limits our risk a little bit, keeps the pot a little bit smaller. So we get one caller and the other guy folds. So this really wide player folds. Now it goes back to this position. What is he going to play? Well, I have fold to c-bet, in position 90%. Fold to c-bet, out of position 72%. This player right now looks like he is completely going to fold anytime he misses. So we are going to give him all pairs, basically. And we can probably get rid of a lot of the weaker pairs. But all pairs, flush draw, I don't even know if I don't think he calls with gut shots. I think he calls flush draw, open-ended straight draws, and all your pairs plus. So 44% of hands. And against that range, we've got 63% on him. So I think that's looking pretty good. 3 of clubs hits. I don't think that changes anything. And now once we get to the turn, his fold to turn c-bet's 100% when he's in position, but it's only one hand. So you can see that kind of reflects the fact that he folds a lot on the flop. I lead out, so now at this point I'm thinking he could have a 6, he could have 7s, he could have an 8, he could have a 2, he could have ace 2. So I think we can bet, and here I think we could probably bet again half pot, although I might go with 2/3 pot, because I think if he's called once, he might be calling again with all of those 8s. So if we bet, what is he going to call with? Definitely he's going to call, I think he's going to call top pair plus. What do you call pocket 7s and middle pair? Half pot maybe. Would he call with his 4s, 5s, ace 3, ace 2? I don't know. Player like this might be a little bit too nitty, but he could also be playing for value, where he catches a pair and he just doesn't want to give it up because he thinks he has value in that hand. That's what I mean by that. So calling station type. So if he plays something like that, he'll have his flush draw, open-ended straight draw, we'll get rid of his gut shots. He's basically continuing 100% of hands. We're at 62% against that. I think we bet larger. So, instead of betting 16, I think maybe going 18 into 24 big blind pot. He calls, so I think we'll continue with that range, and then a 7 hits. And quite frankly, I don't think that changes anything. So now, question is, if I bet, what is he going to call with? I think he's going to call with top pair, over pair, 2 pair sets. I should go back here. Do I think he's going to raise? Let's see what he does on the flop. So raise a C-bet, 0 out of 28. Turn. Raise a C-bet, 1/3. Check raise, 1 out of 22. I think he's going to probably raise his sets. 2 pair, maybe. So sets and 2 pair. Over pairs only 9 and 10. And again, those hands, I think some people tend to be they tend to be afraid that I have a bigger pair. So we'll leave those in. We'll continue. We're at 75% going to the river, and we get a 7 of spades. Now, if I bet, I only think he's calling with top pair plus. I think he is going to give up his middle pair and weak pair. Definitely, if I bet larger, and for this amount, I do think he's gonna bet that. So basically, the only value we're gonna get is from this top pair hands. So if called, we're at 38%. I don't think that's enough top pair. I think this is probably better to go ahead and check. He'll probably bet his sets and 2 pair. I think his over pair, top pair, middle pair, weak pair, ace high, no mate hand, I think are all going to check behind. And when they check behind, we're going to be favored. I don't know if I want to go for 3 streets of value. And, another part of this is that he could have been calling with 8-7, and now he caught 2 pair. And if he was on a flush draw, he missed. So, I don't need him to fold. I already beat that hand. I beat all of the 1 pairs that could be on the board. So I don't really like this bet either. I think I could check and probably call a bet. And I don't see a need to try to throw up a blocking bet. So throw up like I could do a half pot size bet, but after I went up to 16, so 2/3, dropping back down to half pot might be a little bit indicate weakness. Like I was betting because I was on the heart draw and now I missed, so now I'm just going to do my ace high hand. I don't know if a player like this could play that strongly, but I think I should check and probably call the river. I didn't, and he shows 10s, so he did have that overpair, and it kind of matched what I kind of suspected, is that he didn't want to really raise it because they're afraid of the jacks and queens and kings and aces. And something like this happened twice, in my games last night, where I had a pair. It was under the top pair on the board, and the guy calls down, never once made a raise, even when we checked, never once, made the bet. And he had, a overpair, but it wasn't like a big overpair. It was like a 10 or 9s. All right. Hope you enjoyed these hands. These are definitely hands that I think I messed up on. Definitely hands to reconsider. I think the first hand I should have checked on the flop. This hand I'm okay with my C bet here. All right. Look tomorrow for a few more hands.